Hello, Virgo. Welcome to Dove and Serpent Tarot. My name is Paul. If Virgo is your sun, moon, or rising sign, this is your tarot card reading. Remember to hit the like button, leave a comment. Consider subscribing to the channel, especially if this reading resonates with you. These readings are totally free. If there is anything you would like me to pray over, or meditate upon, or send positive energy toward, please let me know. Now, this is a general reading, so try to be open and receptive to whatever may come through during our time together. I am merely the messenger, and I ask you to connect directly with each of these cards and use your own intuition to take you beyond the details that I provide. And remember, Virgo, that the most important part of any tarot reading is you. And you are the magician. This is a card of the different masks that we wear, right? The different persona, right? Personae. I feel like you're somebody who has an ability to shift and adapt yourself into any situation. You're able to kind of get along with everybody. You know, you probably have you've probably noticed that it doesn't matter really who you're talking to. You can find a way to relate to everybody. You have a very elastic mind, you know. You have a very moldable sort of image of yourself. And I think that this is a real skill, a real virtue. I think it's magic. Yeah. It's your ability to adapt to pretty much any situation, any group of people. You can find a way to relate and build rapport with those people. You know, maybe you find that this is helping you in whatever profession you're in or whatever you do for work, or even just in your personal life. You probably have a lot of interests. You know a lot about a lot of things. You can relate to all sorts of different people from all walks of life. You probably speak more than one language. You have an ability to really communicate with a lot of different types of people. Okay? And I find that you're very intelligent, and I think that you, I wonder if right now we're kind of looking for like the authentic version of ourselves. Like, who am I beyond all the masks, right? Well, when the magician takes off the mask, it's just that radiant sun. It's just a spiritual being, right? Let's put this card into a little bit of context. Let's see what else is going on. We have a Prince of Wands. We have a Queen of Swords. We have a Four of Pentacles. A Two of Pentacles. A Two of Swords. Okay. We have a Six of Pentacles. We have a Ten of Swords. An Ace of Cups. And the Hanged Man. Interesting. Interesting. I feel as if right now you are striving to be as authentic as possible as you sort of navigate a relationship, okay? And with that Ten of Swords, I'm right. My first impression is that we're navigating the ending of something, okay? That something's coming to the end of its road, and we're trying to sort of navigate that. Let's select the mystery card, bonus card, confirmation card. Then we'll look into all these cards individually. This is a random card from the Smith-Waite Tarot. This is the factor Infinite and Unknown. We're going to set it down over here with Alien Simon Mork Ripley right there on top. We're not going to look at that card until the very end. It will tie everything together, and it will give us the confirmation that we need at the end of the reading. If at any point during this reading you feel like you might know what that card is, put your prediction in the comments down below. Now, as we look around the room, we see two major arcana energies. We see the Magician and the Hanged Man. Okay. Now, the Hanged Man is not wearing any mask at all, right? Does not have a costume on in any way. So to me, this feels like we're open, we're vulnerable. Okay? Whereas the Magician feels like it's always got to be on. It's always got to be like, it's always got to have one face or the other that's showing the world, right? So I feel like in some way you're really looking for this raw kind of openness, this raw honesty. a raw kind of authenticity. Okay? And to me, it feels like a vulnerability. It feels like we're taking off the mask in some way. And yeah, I feel like we're sort of navigating something that it may not be that we're navigating the ending of something, but maybe we're trying to avoid the ending of something. Okay? Because this is the Ten of Swords. It's in the position of your environment, the position of your relationships. And it's kind of a card of like, we're coming to the sort of an end of a road here. If something doesn't change, then we kind of know where this is going, right? This is going to be a dead end. So maybe this Two of Swords is about us trying to navigate in a different way in order to avoid something ending. At least, to avoid kind of a crash and burn type of situation. Yeah. So we've got our two majors. We have fire right there. We have the water up here. We have some air cards. Yes, we do. And we have some earth cards. Yes, we do. I don't know that this is a love relationship that we're talking about. I wonder if we're trying to navigate maybe a friendship, or if it's a work thing, or if it's some kind of something going on at home, or it could be a family thing, I guess. But it's interesting that our only water energy is here in the position of the obstacle. So maybe this is the idea that our persona, our magician energy, is always sort of masking our emotions. It's always sort of trying to conceal how we really feel about things. So when we have the Ace of Cups in this position, I'm wondering if we're striving right now in life to be more available emotionally, to be more vulnerable emotionally, to be more expressive, right? To be more sort of truthful and raw and authentic in how we feel. Okay? Because this is that heart. And I feel like this heart's kind of being covered up by that magician. It's being tucked away into the position of what we don't want. Maybe we're going around life with this combination, sort of acting like we don't feel anything, It's kind of like in any situation, we're just saying, oh, I'm fine, nothing bothers me. It's all good, and we just smile. And it's a masking, right? It's the magician masking what we're really feeling. And I feel like sometimes we employ this as a way to just we're just going to keep on the gas, just going to pretend I don't see what's going on outside the windows. I'm just going to keep my foot on the accelerator, and we're just going to get out of here. It's just as a way for us to sort of keep going, because if we take the mask off and we really feel the feelings in that raw, pure way, this is like raw, emotions. It's just kind of like, it's just a feeling, right? If we get in touch with that raw water energy, emotional energy, it might stop the car, We might our foot might come off the gas. We might have to hit the brakes, put it in park, and just bawl our eyes out. So I feel like the momentum here is what we're trying to continue. By masking, by the magician always feeling like we have to adapt and change our shape and contort ourselves. Because see, just because you can adapt to any situation does not mean you have to. So I feel like this is you molding and contorting yourself in order to fit into a situation, just so that things can keep going. Because otherwise things will break down, and we'll have to deal with the truth. We'll have to deal with what's really here. Okay? So by changing our shape and keeping ourselves, contorted to fit into the situation, we're allowing the momentum to continue. But I don't think it can continue this way forever. That's why we have a Ten of Swords. Okay. The Queen of Swords down here under the surface, this is inside of you. This is kind of a need to really look at how we feel. Look at the situation. This is more of a bird's eye view of things. Okay? And this is what is needed right now, because this is under the surface. This is something that's inside of you that we need to really activate. If we activate this card and we bring it up to the conscious level, then this is your ability to see the bird's eye view, to see the past, present, and future, to see the emotions, to acknowledge them. Okay, this is a card that's risen up above the air, into the air above the water, right? Above the water, so we can look at the water. we're not deep down in the middle of the water. You know, when you go underwater, you can't really see that well, right? It's just the shape of the eye and the water and stuff, and it's just fuzzy. No, we can't really see very well underwater without goggles anyway. So rising above the water and looking down at it, we can get a more clear picture of what it is. Maybe this is about us trying to really be honest about how we feel about something and what we really want to have in life right now, and what's really going on emotionally. We have to rise up above everything, not sink down into the feeling and fully identify with it, and because then you're not going to be able to see it objectively. So we sort of step back from things. We look at the situation, but mainly we look at, how am I feeling about things? What is that Ace of Cups really telling me here inside? This is not easy for us to do, because very often it's kind of like, if I don't see it, it can't hurt me. Out of sight, out of mind, But I think that it will eventually run into a dead end if we continue this way. We have to be willing to look at things and be honest about what it is, okay? And even in the conversations that we have, we've got to try to be as true to our very own heart as we can. Because again, you're very good at masking and contorting your shape in order to fit into whatever situation you're in. But does it resonate with you? Just because you can adapt does not mean you should, okay? And I think the Four of Pentacles may be that you've found yourself in a rather ordinary circumstance. It's probably not anything all that unique, and maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe this is too much of an L7 square kind of situation. Maybe it is just too basic. Maybe it is too limiting. Maybe it is too isolating. Could be a work situation, could be a relationship, a friendship. It could be a path, a vocation, a profession, whatever it is. It could be a hobby, I don't know. That we have found ourselves, stuck in this box. And this box isn't very big. This is a really small room, okay? And it may be a living situation. It may have to do with, the family thing, or just the life that we're leading. It feels like it's too basic. It's just too many straight lines. It's just got four walls and that's it. It's not what we want it to be. It's not expanding. Maybe we find ourselves in a situation that doesn't have much potential. Beyond these basic things, there's really nothing else. Okay? And so I feel like your higher self, okay, your higher self is sort of, sending you down these intuitive impulses of change. Something's got to change here. There has to be some sort of fluctuation, that we need something more. Now, we have a 4 plus a 2, we get the 6. The 6 is what we want. That is a spectacular situation, right? That is it is a brilliant and luminous kind of life that we're leading, okay? And Spirit, I think this is your higher self. This is what's kind of going on under the surface, hidden in your unconscious, is the need for us to kind of really step back and look at things. But again, this is what we've been ignoring. This is what we've been ignoring because we're just going straight through and trying to do the very best we can to keep things on track, okay? But your higher self is sending you this card of change and saying something needs to be different now. Okay, something has to, that it's kind of letting you know that the Two of Pentacles is a card of harmonious change. Okay, it's kind of like saying, look, there's an alternative. There's a different way. You're not on a one-way ticket or a runaway train or something where there's only one outcome, because that outcome's the Ten of Swords. So we may think that we're kind of we're speeding to a dead end on this train here, but Spirit's saying, look, there is alternative. There are other things that you can do. Your higher self is sending you this card of harmonious change. It doesn't have to be an aggressive or violent or a rough change. It may be a difficult change, sure, but I think that there is a way for you to get what you need in life, to expand upon what seems like a pretty good foundation now. Maybe this isn't, I got to talk to the boss, or got to have a conversation with your parents or with your spouse or something and say, look, this is good. What we have built so far is nice, but it ain't enough. So what can we do beyond this? How can we take this to the next level? I think to have that conversation, you have to be very open and honest with yourself and radically accept what you're feeling inside, and find a way to navigate. Two of Swords. Find a way to navigate that is not going to lead into that train colliding with the dead end. Okay, we're trying to avoid this. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to stay in the relationship or that you have to stay in the job, right? It might mean the other way. It might mean that, well, you've got to find an alternative. It could mean that you have to have a conversation in this situation to find out if this particular train can switch tracks, go in a different direction. If not, you got to get off the train. Okay? So the Two of Swords is a card of a decision that has to be made, but we can't just go and use the magician energy to make the decision, because the magician is going to, I think in the way that we've been referring to it, is going to find a way to just smooth things over as quickly as possible so that there's no, so the boat's not rocking, so we're not making any waves. Just trying to, we're going to have that conversation, but we're going to find ourselves kind of masking again and contorting ourselves in order to fit into the situation, even though deep down we know that it wasn't a resolution. There was no conclusion here. There was no agreement. There was no, nothing, there were no productivity, right, when we do that. So we're trying to trust in our truest self here, trying to trust in our highest self to allow us to make the decisions we need to make in order to change our course a little bit. Okay, so we see the little crescent moon at the top of that card because that's the intuition coming in. And that intuition, I think, comes from both your highest self and your lower kind of unconscious, okay? The lowest, the personal unconscious, and the highest self, the truest, deepest self here. And I think a combination of these energies, kind of the hint from Spirit that's saying harmonious change is possible, and then of course your objective view of everything and your honest assessment of how you really feel is leading you to new decisions. These two cards are both kind of connecting here to the Two of Swords and saying we need to trust our intuition here, and we need to have the conversation. We need to maybe have the emotionally open and honest conversation with ourselves primarily, but with the other person, with the coworker, with the lover, with the boss, with Spirit, whatever it is, in order to say, like, look, taking off the mask here. This is how I really feel, and this is what I really want to do, and this is what I need. And if we can't do that together, then I got to get off the train, essentially, right? Use your own words, of course. On the path of the Serpent, we see the Six of Pentacles. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. The readings are totally free. The Six of Pentacles is the card of success. This is the card of, like, you kind of know, you know what you have to offer, and you know what you're capable of. You know, like, who you are, and you know how expansive you could be. And so I feel like when we take this and we try to stuff it into a Four of Pentacles, it's like you're going to have to cut off some pieces here. We're going to have to trim it over here. We're going to have to cut this way and make it a square to fit in there. So I feel like you know that you're sort of you're sacrificing parts of yourself that you don't want to sacrifice in order to fit into the box. It's like you've had to give up essential parts of yourself. It's like you've had to cut off limbs. We've had to trim the card. Even, can you imagine if I cut this card into a little square so it could fit inside of this? We'd lose all the best parts of that card. I'm not going to do that. It took me long enough to trim these. I'm not going to trim them again. The sacrifice there is not a worthy sacrifice. Okay? Some sacrifice is necessary if this is going to continue. Okay? And of course, we see that with the Hanged Man there at the end. We know that there is going to be some compromise and some sacrifice that is needed. But I think that with the Six of Pentacles, we know sort of what the truest parts of ourselves are, and we have this feeling like these are the non-negotiables. What we have here with the Six, these are the things that I'm not going to sacrifice. These are things that I need in my life. Maybe this is like, creativity. And maybe this is like passion and love. And maybe this is, a deeper connection kind of thing. Maybe this is like pets. I'm not going to compromise my pets to stay in this situation. Or if it's a job kind of thing, then it's realizing that there's a lot of parts of us that are not being utilized in this situation. If I'm going to stay in this job, I'm basically like, I'm not giving an expression or a voice to a lot of parts of me that really need a voice right now. Okay? I feel like this might be more about a romance than anything else, or a family thing more than anything. Because, if the job is a square Four of Pentacles job, it's paying the bills, fine. You can go find extracurricular things to do to connect with these other parts of yourself and to have expression of those other parts, you see? So that job doesn't have to fulfill everything. But maybe that's part of the conversation we need to have too. That's saying like, look, this relationship is fulfilling, a good basic structure for me, but there's a lot of other parts of me that need a voice. So I've got to have other friends where I can do those things with, right? Maybe you're in a relationship where your partner doesn't like music. And you're saying, well, that's an essential part of me. So I need to find a way that I can have that in my life outside of this relationship if I need to. But that's the open and honest conversation we need to have. Okay? Because your partner might say, no, if you're going to go listen to music with somebody else, then we can't be together. Well, okay, that's a different story. They've got to live their truth, right? Or they might say, okay, yeah, I'm fine with our basic relationship that we have. If you want to go listen to music, you have friends and you can go to shows or whatever, and you can have that in your life. So really, this is about you understanding what you really need in your life and finding a way to give expression to those parts of you, not feeling that we have to cut them off in order to make them fit in that box. Okay? The Ten of Swords in the position of the obstacle, this is the obstacle, but this is the obstacle of the relationship. This is kind of like what we're going through in order to get to, the future here. This is the Ten of Swords in the relationship. Feels as if it's kind of pointless. That's the thing about this card. All these little swords, they've got no points on them. All the tips of the swords are broken off, and they're chipped and broken, right? Because the way we're looking at the relationship is we're kind of thinking this is pointless. Maybe we feel that there's no use to having a conversation because nothing will ever change, right? And maybe there is part of us that is kind of resigned to just this being a dead-end sort of pathway. Okay? And maybe it is, but sometimes this card is like, we think we know the future. We think we can predict where the track is going, and then we just sort of like, we don't even bother. It's like, I already know how it's going to go, so I'm not even going to bother trying. So it kind of feels like it's pointless to even have a conversation. It's just better for me to either shut up and just deal with it and get used to it and just accept that, this is my fate. Or I'm just going to abruptly leave and not have a conversation. So I think first we have to think it through a little bit more, and we have to open up a dialogue, at least with ourself and our truest self, and ask, are there alternatives, and what are the alternatives? What are the choices here? Okay? Because it doesn't have to be a dead end that we're either crash and burn or we leap off of the train. No, maybe we can just divert the train to a different track. Okay? We should at least try that first, and I feel like you're someone who wants to try that first. Okay, but we have a difficult time letting the shields down, letting the mask down, and being sort of open and vulnerable and honest. Okay, but at least we have to do that with ourselves before we condemn something to the trash heap. Okay. The Ace of Cups is obviously it's like that that emotional core that's inside of you that we tend to protect. Okay, and this is in the position of the difficulty for you, or this is the obstacle, right? Is getting in touch with this and letting that emotional energy flow. Because what the mask does is it prevents this from leaking out into our life. We stuff this into a box and we lock it away and we push it away somewhere else so it can't interfere with the momentum or the life or whatever. It can't upset us. Because I feel like once we tap into this, that water's going to start flowing. It's like suddenly you turn the faucet on and all the water's rushing out, Well, yeah, of course. What did you think was going to happen, right? Once we start feeling our heart, we're going to start feeling our heart. Once we open up the heart, we're going to start feeling those emotions. And so the masking is the magician energy is kind of like this is, it's adaptive, right? Maybe it's maladaptive, but it's us realizing that I've got to put my emotions away so that I can get along right now in life, so I can move forward and keep the momentum and feel like there's some sort of safety or security or stability in my life. Because once I start getting all emotional, that might upset the stability. And so maybe we have a history from childhood or from our upbringing that it's like, if I get overly emotional, if I start expressing my emotions too much, that sort of destabilizes the safety of the home, and I don't want to do that. Maybe we had that experience as a kid. And so now we've learned to keep our emotions to ourselves, keep them from ourselves even, right? And totally ignore this core sort of heart, feeling inside of us. But I think we need to sort of tap into it a little bit and at least have that moment with ourselves and then figure out how to navigate and figure out what our choices are. But first we have to contact this heart, figure out what's really going on, what we really want, how we really feel. And then we'll know what we have to surrender to. Okay, I think in some ways we're surrendering to our heart here. Yeah. This is the card of open. We're not masking our feelings anymore. Okay? I think we're gonna have a conversation with honesty, with openness, with vulnerability. It's gonna be a gentle conversation. Okay? We don't see a lot of fire energy here. We don't even see a lot of swords cards, really. We've got a couple, but not a ton. And not very aggressive ones either. So I feel like we're going to let those emotions flow, and we're going to try to be as honest as we can. We're at least lifting off the mask for ourselves so we can see what's really going on and figure out how we can approach the subject and what kind of a conversation we can have. Okay? Let's look at the mystery card. But we know with the Hanged Man that some sacrifice is always going to be required. Okay, so it doesn't, let's not think that the grass is going to be greener on the other side, because there will always be sacrifices. We will always be required to be the magician and to shift and shape ourselves a little bit in order to fit into a situation. The idea here is, am I willing to sacrifice what this current situation is asking me to sacrifice? Or can I have a conversation that says, hey, I don't want to sacrifice so much. I don't want to sacrifice these particular things. Can we work with that? Okay, so let's not think that there will be a perfect situation where we do not have to sacrifice anything. It doesn't matter if we're alone, if we're in a different place, or whatever is going on. We're not living in a vacuum. We're going to have to compromise a little bit, just with life, just with the world around us. So there will always be sacrifice. There will always be the need for letting go and for surrendering of something. It's just us kind of deciding, what am I willing to sacrifice and what am I saying, oh, no, about sacrificing. Let's look at the mystery card. I don't really have a prediction for this one. I want to see some harmony. I want to see some togetherness. I want to see maybe a Lover's card, maybe a Six of Cups. But I don't know. Maybe we'll get some fire energy. Maybe we'll get the Hermit. Could be. If you have a prediction, put it in the comments. Let's see what we have. The Page of Cups. Interesting. You're someone now that is able to tap into those emotions and understand how they are influencing your behavior. So this is now this is someone who, instead of wearing the mask, this is someone that's wearing their emotions, you know? And so we have to be careful with that too. We don't want our emotions to come flooding over us and dictating every choice we make. We don't want the emotions driving the car. Okay? We want to drive the car in conjunction with our highest self. Okay? So we don't want to let these fleeting and vacillating and torrential, turbulent emotions drive the car, because we'll crash the car. We don't want to put them in charge of the train. We don't want them making decisions for us, but we have to get in touch with them, and we have to look at them and say, okay, fish in the percolator, what are you talking about? What is that feeling? Why are you here? And what are you trying to tell me? And then we get to decide how to act, how to behave, because this, the Page of Cups, or the Princess of Cups, as it's called in the Thoth deck, is emotion to behavior, feeling to behavior. So we're acting out every emotion we have, and that's letting the kids drive the car. Okay, we don't want to do that. So this is a good reminder that we have to still be in control, even when the emotions are influencing our behavior and we feel this impulsivity to act in a certain way. We can't let the emotions control our behavior. Okay, we have to be in control, but we have to listen to the emotions, and we have to recognize them and look at them and say, what's up? Okay. Now, we're going to do an extended reading as well if you want to stick around. We're going to do an I Ching hexagram. We're going to do some oracle cards. There is a link in the corner. There's a link down below. New readings for Virgo, Tuesdays and Saturdays. Be sure to watch both readings. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. The readings are totally free. Leave a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching from. I want you to know that you're the most important part of Dove and Serpent Tarot. I thank you and I love you, and we're all in this together.